Welcome to Open Pike Night, the Strange New Worlds podcast where your calls are the prime directive. I'm your host, John T. Bolds, here tonight with the return of Strange New Words, Episode 7. Please welcome to the stage for the first time, Alan B. McElroy.
It's McElroy.
Alan B. McElroy. I'm sorry, I put an A in there for some reason. Tonight we're looking at Season 3, Episode 7 of Strange New Worlds. What is Starfleet? But first, let me introduce you to my co-hosts. The man who says he comes in peace, but is shockingly well-armed for recording a podcast, Jesse Bailey.
Can't believe you noticed, John. I always bring my guns.
And the man who wishes he had the camera drones Beto has access to. He puts the cam in camera. Host of Green Shirt and Newbie Struck Through the Next Generation, Cameron Harrison.
Can you really call yourself an independent filmmaker if you can't light one small interview without a van load of equipment and supplies?
Absolutely not. No. So yeah, we're here to discuss what is I think the shortest episode of the season 3, but what a heartfelt episode. Alan, welcome to the stage. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's exciting getting to talk to all these new writers this season.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, it's great to be on Strange New Worlds. I started on Discovery, and but I grew up watching TOS, so this is my era. And I couldn't be happier. In fact, when I was on Discovery, I wrote the episode where Captain Pike introduced number one coming onto the ship. So my very first line of dialogue for Discovery was Captain Pike saying, "Welcome aboard Discovery number 1."
Wow. Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great.
Chills? Did you have chills?
But yeah, for me, as having grown up watching Star Trek, to be writing a line for Christopher Pike welcoming number 1 onto the ship was just mind-blowing.
So when you joined the writer's room in Season 3 for Strange New Worlds, were you like, well, I came up with these characters. I started these characters for you. Did you swing that around a little bit?
I should have, yeah. Not as much as I should have.
I'm this Una's daddy. I don't know. That was going to come out wrong. I'm just going to... Please redact that.
No.
Well, yeah, I do want to get to know you a little bit, though, Alan. Let's go back a little bit, because you have some credits under your belt as a writer. Let's just start with your first credit doing Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Let's just kind of go through these kind of quick, but what can you tell us about jumping into that franchise?
Well, that was amazing and an incredible experience, because Halloween and Halloween 2 were like some of the best experiences I had when I was a kid, just watching those movies. And getting to bring the shape back was a dream come true. I only had 11 days to write the script, but it didn't matter. I burned through that script. I was on fire for writing that. I had so much fun doing it. And what's funny is Dwight Little, the director, he and I met years earlier, but it turns out we discovered we went to the same high school.
Oh, wow.
He had graduated before I'd been there. So we didn't know each other there. We met in Los Angeles. We were having a meeting. And he's like, "Oh, I'm from Cleveland." "Oh, yeah, so am I." "Oh, where else?" "East Side." "Oh, you're East Side?" "Oh, yeah, where'd you go to high school?" It's this tiny little private school called Hawken, and we both went there. And the DP, Peter Lyons Collister, he also went to Hawken. So you got 3 Hawken guys working on Halloween.
Did you all name the victims in Halloween 4 after the mean kids there then?
Why? See, that would have been a great idea. I wish I thought of that.
All right, well, then staying in the horror genre, Wrong Turn is an amazing film.
Oh, man.
So congratulations. I didn't realize how many sequels there were, though, until I was looking at your IMDb.
Yeah, a lot of sequels. I did the first one, and then I did the reboot. So the sequels are all under other people's auspices. Right. But the original Wrong Turn was an idea I had driving back with my family from a family trip to Florida to go to Disney World. We were driving back through West Virginia and through that country, and it just, I don't know, this idea just popped in my head.
I feel like it was kind of right on the cusp of when horror started taking itself a little too seriously, and it was just like one of the last great, just kind of slasher 80s horror films.
Yes.
In the late 90s?
Early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, it was like 2003. 2003
Yeah, okay.
what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was originally an idea I had where it was going to be just one guy He was a bank robber whose car breaks down and he has to walk through the woods. And I was actually going to do it as a short film. Then I pitched the idea to an executive friend of mine, and he basically said to me, "Why don't you just add a few more people and give it like a really simple name, like Wrong Turn?" And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
That was it.
Is there anything you want to say about Ballistic X versus Sever?
No, I do not.
Okay.
No, not at all. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Not my fault. I could drop a name whose fault it is, but it's not my fault.
Please don't say it's Antonio Banderas' fault.
No. There's a person at fault.
We'll do a whole podcast about that someday.
I could.
Minute by minute, Ballistic X versus Sever.
Oh my God! I never want to talk about that movie. It's horrifying.
Fair enough. Yep.
All right. Well, what I hope you want to talk about is something from my teenage years. Ground Zero, Texas. I remember
my gosh.
That was like the first time a video game had a real cinematic previews or commercials on TV, and I bought it. I had it for this. I owned a Sega CD. I was the one of 5 kids who had that system, and It was amazing. I love that game.
That was fun. Although writing the script for that was like a nightmare because you have to write every single potential permutation of what somebody could do. So the script was like 500 pages.
Oh wow,
it was crazy.
That's very.
But it was
cool.
fun. It was a lot of fun.
And I just had to refresh myself. Halloween 4, that's the one that was filming around my house when I was a kid in Salt Lake. So it's like, I know one of the Halloweens, it had to be Halloween 4 with the, that was a fun experience to see them, all the different houses.
What's fun is Mike Lookingland was our greensman. So it's funny to have like a Brady as our greensman. And the woman who was dead behind the counter in the gas station, that's his wife.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
We'll have to get you on for a whole podcast about that, too.
I was going to say, my wife is going to be so jealous of this interview. Halloween is her favorite franchise. She has disregarded the Rob Zombie remakes, but like first 4, I think maybe 5 movies, she's like, she made me watch all of them when we got together because I hadn't seen any of them. And she's going to be excited for this episode. Well,
it's so funny because Mustafa wanted Dwight and I to come back and do 5, and we foolishly did not. And both of us lament the fact that we didn't come back and do Halloween 5 now at this point because I don't know, there's something about it that we still love. It was a great experience.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
It's an icon. But speaking of icons, Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here we are.
Yes.
So what was the pitch for this episode? Like, did it begin as a documentary or as an examination of what Starfleet is?
Well, what we wanted to do, what we talked about in the room, is we were looking for an interesting new format because obviously there's been a lot of format breaking throughout, this iteration of Star Trek. And so we thought, what if we did a documentary? And that was kind of how we started, just like, what do we want to talk about? What's the subject? And it kind of rose out of that. The idea of, for me anyway, the idea of a weapon that doesn't want to be a weapon anymore. I thought that was an interesting concept to delve into. And just get to actually ask questions about the difference between what Starfleet is as an exploration vessel versus, how Beto is starting to view it as a warship. And that actually, part of that actually came from Akiva. He really wanted to lean into this idea that, that Beta's going into it with this idea of, I want to really stick it to Starfleet. I want to make it look bad. And then he, through the course of it, sees that it's, in fact, the mission is more about mercy than it is about warfare.
Okay.
Was the idea of did Beto come from the idea of doing this as a documentary? Did you think of that and then go, oh, well, let's create a character to be the filmmaker? Or did you have that kind of character there doing something and then he adapted into the filmmaker?
No, yeah. I think the idea was bringing Beto aboard was really towards, creating this potential relationship with Nyota.
Okay.
But then the idea of, this documentary was like, oh, wait a minute, that could be married into this character. And I think it grew out of that.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So it's a very bold move, shall we say, to start an episode of Star Trek without the fanfare and the optimism that we're used to from the theme song. Is that designed to make us a little uncomfortable, maybe open to a new viewpoint on Starfleet?
No, absolutely. I mean, what we really wanted to start off as and play this is, what you're seeing isn't an episode of Star Trek per se. What you're seeing is Beto's documentary. as if it were being broadcast. I mean, there was a point where we actually thought, did we want to end the episode with a pullback from a screen and realize that the crew was actually watching the documentary that he had shot, almost to get their approval. But we didn't want to do that. We decided this is the documentary, period. So, you're not going to get the fanfare. You're not going to get the usual, lead in. You're not going to get the previously on all that. It's just, this is Beto's documentary. And I love the opening shot. I love the sort of the darkness of the Enterprise in space. I love that. Yes. And one of the things we kept talking about, Sharon and I constantly kept bringing up this idea of Crimson Tide, how to make the Enterprise, which is such a bright and beautiful ship, how do we give it a darkness, an edge, make it sort of feel militaristic? We really tried to make sure that was the motif we were pushing for, and she did a great job of capturing that. And also, the DP really just found the lighting to make it feel like you're on something akin to a nuclear submarine as opposed to a beautiful Federation starship.
Well, speaking of this being Beto's documentary, I mean, this episode's a great character examination of many of the characters on here, but really, like, every frame of this is an examination of one person's character, and that's Beto's. Every cut, every slug line, every musical choice is a choice he made for this documentary. Did you kind of try to put yourself into Beto's mindset, or did you kind of approach it like, well, he would tell the same story we'd tell, and we're not going to try to overthink it?
No, we really wanted this to be from Beto's mindset, that mindset of coming into it, wanting to do a hit piece on Starfleet. And then as you're going to notice, he's not in it in the beginning, but then there's a point where he enters into the story when he starts to see a shift in point of view. It becomes his shift in point of view. And so he wants the viewer to go with him on this journey from, I came into this thinking Starfleet was a warship and a vessel of colonizers. And instead, I start to see what they're really about, and what Uhura specifically, somebody has an emotional connection with, what she's willing to sacrifice, how she's willing to put herself out there to save this creature that is also a weapon.
Okay. And with that, with the weapon and the creature and the situation, it clearly has some stark similarities to real life conflicts. Did you model this off one in particular, or just a broader allegory with this story being told?
Yeah, it was literally a broader allegory. I mean, it just so happens that it's dovetailing with real events. Now, Star Trek has a history of kind of mirroring things that are happening in our society. So, I don't know whether it's art following culture or culture following art. I don't know, but nonetheless, I'm sort of glad that we have written an episode that also can be looked at as something that resonates with our world today.
Yeah. It's all a salad who eats his own tail at this point. Did I get it right? Am I understanding that? I think
yes.
Maybe not.
Oh, I should tell you. I'm just going to tell you something about that episode.
Please.
We were pitching that episode for it, and at the end, of course, where you reveal that these were actually humans. I grew up watching Lost in Space. That's one of my favorite shows of all time. I so pitched hard. I wanted to be the Jupiter 2. What did the Robinsons turn into?
Wait, you already crossed it over with Doctor Who in that episode. You wanted to be a three. Again, I was going to say three-way. I'm just not going to talk for this interview. I'm going to stop talking.
So you have mentioned this weapon that doesn't want to be a weapon anymore. And I mean, for me, that's the scene that hits the hardest, I think, is Uhura is communicating this, but Mbenga is the one translating, and that absolutely applies to him as well, because he feels that he keeps this monster inside of him for when he needs it. And I'm a huge Mbenga fan. I'm always telling people he didn't do anything wrong. That Klingon needed to go, and leave Mbenga alone. He deserves every bit of happiness he can find. But this weapon, this alien, talk to us about it. Like, what is the inspiration for such a beautiful and terrifying new alien?
It just came to me. I mean, it was this idea of this beautiful creature that has been manipulated and turned into this thing it doesn't want to be. And I will say that, I've written a lot. I have literally like stacks of notebooks and pads filled with ideas. I've always wanted to write a story about a weapon that doesn't want to be a weapon, and yet it can't stop itself. Someone has to stop it. And so that this was a place where I could put that idea. And just want to take it as this thing that's so beautiful and have it make it into something so terrifying. And yet it's operating not at its own will, but at the will of something else. I don't know. I've always there's something about that theme I thought was very interesting.
I loved it. I was like, honestly, I was having flashbacks to the first time I saw Iron Giant, and he says, "I am not a gun," and then flies away. I'm like, I might tear up during this interview, but like, I have to tell you, I love this choice. Like, sometimes on this show, I don't ask a question. I just give a compliment. So bravo. That was amazingly well done. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anytime we get a big giant space creature in Star Trek, like, it's always a memorable, and like, you're going to feel something, because it's like, hey, this thing can fly through space without a ship. So that's already going for it.
And I also want to make sure that I say, I mean, I didn't do this alone. I mean, Catherine Lynn, Kat, was, and, my partner on this through this entire process. I mean, we wrote this together, so I don't want to sound like I did this by myself. She is completely 100% part of this. We were a full team beginning to end.
Yeah, we usually like to ask how your writing partner worked with you, how it was working with her when we only have one of you on. So yeah, in what ways did she help inspire you with this?
I love working with Kat. At first, she's great with dialogue. She's great with character, and just us trying to sort of figure out, how do you crack the documentary? And so we really had to sort of lean in this idea of, let's watch some documentaries. Let's look at some things and see how they're done. And so she suggested some documentaries, which I can't remember now, but she suggested some documentaries to just like watch, because we had to come into this feeling like Beto had done this before, and that it feels like a real documentary. And how do you jump into it? Where do you make cuts? We're writing into moments. When you do a documentary, it's like you're cutting to moments and cutting to scenes and catching characters in certain moments. And so it's not your standard linear storytelling. So she was very instrumental in helping us kind of discover that.
Yeah, this wasn't your first Star Trek writing gig, but was your first Strange New Worlds script, doing a format that Star Trek has never done before. I mean, it's more than a genre, it's the whole format. Was that intimidating for you, or maybe was it freeing?
It wasn't intimidating. And in terms of being freeing, I think what was freeing was the idea of asking the question, what is Starfleet? I think that, in a sense, was fun. Because, we all have questions about what Starfleet is and what it isn't. And being able to kind of step up and say, hey, this is something that provides hope. You might want, Beto comes into it wanting to say, well, they've got all these weapons, but no, this is, as Una says, it's about bringing hope and light, where they go. And yes, they have to defend themselves when necessary, but their weapons are defensive. They're not meant to be offensive. So the idea of just exploring that was exciting for me.
So I have to ask, because Una very specifically phrases the description of space as dark, cold, and full of death. I was reminded of two possible sources for that description, one being Bones McCoy in the 2009 Star Trek films, and the other being William Shatner on his trip to space. Is there one of those that it really was, or is this something that you guys just kind of stumbled into?
I'm going to get ripped apart for this. I literally did it because what William Shatner said, I really wanted to kind of counterpoint that. I did. So that was...
Thank you.
Jesse always writes these questions. I'm like, no, Jesse, they were not thinking that. They were not. You're reading too much into it. And every time the writers are like, 100% what I was thinking.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Yep. I was worried it wouldn't make it into the episode. I thought somebody was going to say, wait, you can't do this, 'cause Shatner will be angry and you don't want to... They let it in. It's great.
Yeah. Is there any particular reason, like, this curiosity, not some Trekkie being angry? Like, is there a reason Scotty doesn't appear in this documentary?
It's funny. I was thinking about that today when I was watching it. Like, oh wait, I think it simply was contractual. Like, in that season, I think we only had him for so many episodes. So this one we didn't have him. Sadly, Martin is great. I love him.
I'm going to choose to imagine he's in the other Pelia version that Beto had to make for her. Be like, yeah, this is the documentary. Here you go.
None of her footage is usable. We gotta cut this all out.
All I'm saying is full hour-long extra, extra feature, special feature on
Right.
the DVD.
Just
the Pelican.
a nod back to the previous episode. I just love that scene. I laughed out loud. That scene where she gives that whole thing about evil, and then she turns and goes, "Would you like another one for the camera?" I died.
So good.
I think of the three of us, I got to watch that one first, and it's like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's speaking maybe of making fake deleted scenes like Beto would have done. I noticed because this is a TV show, there are still commercial breaks in Beto's documentary. Was there any talk of doing fake 23rd century commercials to put in there?
I bet Kat and I did talk about that, but I think we talked about it. We did talk about that, but no, we couldn't do it. We've often talked about fake commercials in different episodes for different reasons. So no, we couldn't do that. I will say this though, Sharon did an amazing thing with this episode. She actually created questions to ask the crew during her interviews that were not scripted. And to watch them answer these questions in character, fascinating. You mentioned M'Benga. She posed a lot of questions to him about his past. And I think Beto's question about have you ever scrubbed the logs? That was a question she posed to him.
Oh, wow.
And she said there's a point where, I forget what he said in response, something like, "Where are you getting these questions?" or something. She said she actually got scared. Which was great.
Talk about immersion. That's impressive.
It was just impressive to watch them all do that. Immersions in their characters, answer all those questions was great.
I hope those are on the DVD. I want to see all those. But yes, we will be talking with Sharon, the director of this episode. That episode will be dropping. I don't want to give an exact date, but sometime between now and when our next episode drops. Be on the lookout for that conversation. I can't wait now.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
But that does lead me to another question. I mean, I promise that not everything that I saw in this episode brought me back to M'Benga, but a lot of it did. And you have multiple characters answering questions with things like, "That's classified," or "I cannot recall," which is, like you were saying earlier, it echoes a lot of real life depositions and things that we see where we're like, well, that's clearly not the truth. Did you ever worry that might come across as too real or like immersion breaking, or maybe cause audiences to dislike a character they've grown to love?
Oh, no, not at all. Because I think these characters show you who they are at their core. Often, they will go above and beyond to do what's right and what's human or humane in situations. And I think we know that about these characters. We know that M'Benga has, a dark past, but, he doesn't want to be defined by that. We know that Pike, he's captain of a starship, but will also make decisions to protect his crew, protect life, human or otherwise. And the same with Lan, who has, come from such a past where she faced, sort of pain and darkness and fear and terror, and has found a place of discipline and maybe even a sense of peace by being on board this ship. And then, of course, we have Ortegas, who was attacked by a Gorn and is still dealing with the injury of that with her hand and still carrying the wounds of that with her. And yet, she's on this ship trying to find her way every single day. I think we love these characters for that.
I completely agree. And this is the closest look we've had at Erica Ortegas.
Yeah.
Thank you, first of all, for that. And was there a particular process for kind of developing her relationship with Beto or her feelings about Starfleet? Because we've seen her a lot, but we don't really get to dive deep with her.
Well, we definitely wanted to get into this idea of sister-brother relationships, and her feelings about him. Also the idea of what went on with her family in the past. What was she running from? What pains in her past couldn't she face? And that she decided, well, in Starfleet, I can prove myself. I can be the best. No one can touch me out here. And then, she did face death. So we're kind of playing with a little bit of that, with her relationships and how she's being challenged both with her family and with who she is and where she wants to go next.
I'm going to ask a question. I'm surprised Jesse hasn't brought up or written in our outline here because he is a huge fan of this theory, and you're uniquely positioned to answer it. Did Ortegas and Kayla Detmer know each other or go through the academy together? Did they go through pilot school together?
That's very funny. I'm uniquely qualified to answer that question. I would say no, they did not. They did not know each other. I will say that.
John, you could have just let me have my dream. Why did you do this?
Jesse, you know I love crushing your dreams. And
that's true, you do.
That's kind of our thing.
That is your thing.
And we were talking, Alan, just before you logged in. The screeners don't have subtitles. So is it Jukaru or Chikaru? We weren't entirely sure. We're kind of divided.
Oh, the creature?
Yeah.
It's Jakaru. It's with a J. Jakaru.
Okay.
I told you guys not to trust me.
Is there a special significance to that or history to that word?
Just looking for a word, and it just came to me, and I thought, let's go with that.
Bingo.
Making stuff up.
Right. It feels very TOS TNG. Like, here's a vaguely alien-sounding word, and I mean, all the video calls in this episode, like... I'm very interested to see the reaction to this episode from the fan base because the first time I watched it, I was like, this is very different from what I'm used to. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, it's actually not that different from what I'm used to. It is telling me that it is, right? With the format. It's amazing.
It's a classic Star Trek story being told from a slightly different perspective. It's really fascinating that way.
Yeah.
Kat and I are both curious, like, what's going to happen? Are we going to be, should we go into hiding for passes, or what? So we'll see.
I don't think you have to worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, going back to your, 1 foot in Discovery, 1 foot in Strange New Worlds origins, was there a bit of kind of a learning curve jumping into these characters who you'd written before, but like adapting to where they are now? They've all been through some things since season 2 of Discovery.
Not really. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not really. I enjoy these characters. I think I have a real affinity for them. And I think it is because I've grown up watching so much Star Trek, and I've carried it with me, my whole life. And if you were to see my usual screensavers on my computers, it's all Enterprise. It's all Star Trek. And this is way before I was ever part of the show. So it's been in my blood since I was a kid. And so it's not so much a learning curve as them having to rein me in because I'm always, diving in with even more, more canons, elements and trying to drop Easter eggs from obscure canon that makes the people in the room go crazy. So I'm always like, Sam's talking to Aurelian, and Aurelian is talking about how great it's going to be when we move to Deneva, stuff like that.
Yeah. Watch out for those eggs.
Yes.
I got to wonder what the longest tangent in the writer's room, like what's the record for you guys going off on Star Trek minutia and then realizing, hey, it's been like 4 hours. We should probably get back to writing. Like, I got to wonder how long that goes sometimes.
Oh, we go off on a lot of tangents on Trek. I mean, a lot of times it's just like you're trying to find a way to bring something into the episode that we love. Like the Doomsday Machine. I can talk about the Doomsday Machine for days. So we will go off on tangents about the Doomsday Machine, mainly because I will bring it up. Because that was one of my favorite episodes when I was a kid. When I was a kid watching the Doomsday Machine, I was a little kid, and my parents would let me stay up to watch it. And when Kirk was on the Constellation and the Constellation is going into the Doomsday Machine, I was backing across our living room because I was so terrified. And I backed across the living room and I was backing up the stairs. My mother looked at me and she goes, "Oh, Alan, the star of a TV show never dies." and the magic of television was shattered forever. But that episode has always, it's just in my soul. I love the Doomsday Machine.
Did you tell Henry that story and be like, you've got to give me Pike's death scene just so I can prove it to my mom?
It's great. It's like, yep. See, they do die.
And I killed him.
Yes.
This is literally not my mother's television.
Exactly.
Well, since you bring up, canon and minutia, just let me ask you, because since last episode, the Saladu ate its own tail, and since we've talked about it some this episode anyway, I've seen in multiple places this very kind of obscure complaint come up, which is people saying, wasn't Spock the first Vulcan in Starfleet? How could there be a Vulcan captain? Do you want to put any of that to rest now for those listeners?
I'll be honest with you. I'm with you. Listeners, I'm with you. I'm like, what are we doing?
I can't find in canon where it says that. Where does it say it?
I'm sure it's in TOS.
He was the only, he was the first Vulcan in Starfleet is in TOS.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
there is the Intrepid.
Right.
So the Intrepid was a Federation starship completely manned by Vulcans. And I believe it wasn't a Vulcan ship, it was a Federation ship. Mm-hmm. So there is that question to answer. So in a sense, no, I guess he wouldn't be the first Vulcan.
And I'd heard that it says he was the first Vulcan in Starfleet Academy. So maybe some of these Vulcans were able to just transfer their Vulcan ranks over without having to go through school.
Especially since it was an entirely Vulcan manned ship, probably.
Would make sense.
Right. And we know from Enterprise that the Vulcans are no strangers to like inserting themselves into human and Federation affairs. So maybe they didn't go through all the training and they were just like, well, look at us. We're the captains now.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it was an exchange program like Riker did with the Klingons.
Right, yeah. It could be anything.
It's basically what T'Pol was doing.
I love that episode.
It's so good.
It's a great episode.
Just watching him eat the food in the beginning.
Yeah. Gok, it's best served live. It's like the food is moving. I love it.
I have no transition into this question, so I'm not even going to try. Was there any discussion of having Una's complicated relationship with Starfleet vis-a-vis Ad Astra Prospera? Was that coming into play in this episode at all?
No, we never did talk about bringing that aspect into it. It's interesting that you mentioned that, but no, we never did delve into that. Although I've got to say that for me is one of my favorite episodes. And that was written by Dana, and it was just amazing. Like some of the speeches, the dialogue, the tension, the back and forth. I said we should do a Star Trek, Justice Advocate General series. I mean, it was just so good. It was like A Few Good Men, It was great.
Mm-hmm. That would be awesome.
A lot of people in the fandom asked for that after that episode. A lot of our callers were like, can we have Star Trek JAG? And I was like, I never thought I would want that, but I totally do.
I would. I loved it. It was great.
So good.
And with it being a documentary, Beto seems to inadvertently end up as the subject of his own documentary, which would not make him the first or even the 5,000th documentarian to do that. Is there any part of yourself that you found present in this episode that you didn't expect?
Myself, not really myself in the episode. Just the questions, just being able to ask the questions and explore the questions and have the characters come out. And maybe it's my love of the characters that probably comes through. You put a question to them, then they're able to answer them in a way that shows their humanity and their strength and their resolve when it comes to Starfleet. I mean, obviously, watching Star Trek all my life, I have a deep love for Starfleet, for the Enterprise specifically, and for this crew. I mean, I'll always remember in I think it's in the Immunity Syndrome when Spock feels like he's dying. He's given his sort of last will and testament, and he describes him as the best ship in the fleet. I mean, that's the way I feel about Star Trek always. I feel about the Enterprise specifically. This is the best crew and the best ship, and it represents my dreams. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut, probably because of Star Trek, and it's like they represented, something that to aspire to, which I love.
I really like that you've balanced that aspirational and inspirational quality with kind of the indictment that Beto brings. I mean, people talk all the time about how DS9 is maybe the best version of Star Trek because it's willing to interrogate those things we've always taken for granted about the Federation, about the Utopia, about Starfleet. And I feel like this episode kind of manages to strike that same balance of like those questions are fair to ask, but it doesn't invalidate the hope that these characters bring. Again, this is not a question. I'm just incredibly impressed.
Well, I think, we have to ask ourselves these questions about our society always. If we don't constantly question it and we don't constantly sort of hold it up and say for examination, we run the risk of, it turning into something that we don't want it to be. Or, we have to always be examining and re-examining and taking stock of ourselves, our society, and, our choices all the time. And I think, that's a great thing that Star Trek does. I mean, science fiction was always meant to be sort of this allegory of our society, and I think Star Trek still tries to do that. So I'm just happy and proud to be part of it.
I feel so much of what gets communicated in this episode is, and I'm formulating this question on the fly, so we'll see where it goes, is unspoken, is the looks to the camera, is like Beto's expression when Una's talking to him in the sick bay says so much without saying a single word. Like as a writer, where did you find that balance of like when to say what you need to say and when to just trust that the actors would convey it? And when you watched it, like, did you feel they did it?
This is the great thing about these actors. They are so great at who they are and what they do and what they bring to these characters. It's absolutely amazing. They bring the looks, they bring the pauses and the subtext. We're often told, write the line, trust the actor. And absolutely, we, trusting them, we know we're in great hands with them. We know that we put our words out there, they're going to find the depth that goes beyond what we've written. And they do that so often. As I said, Sharon asked them, put them in interviews with questions that she posed, and they answered them in these deep ways about their character that they know better than we know them, which I thought was amazing. Also, something I got to say, I'll say this finally about Christy Chong, who plays Lan.
Mm-hmm.
She on screen is so tough as a security officer, and it's so different from who she is as a human being. I mean, I often said to her, I said, Lan, I think, is like 2 inches taller than you are, because of just who she is. But when she's that character, there's all that depth and all that subtext brought into it, and I saw that all through this episode, and that's probably the thing that makes me the happiest. It isn't so much just watching them say the lines that I wrote; it's watching them say things from the heart of the character that explore a new level that even I hadn't thought of. I think that's great. So that's all up to the actors. They're fantastic.
Yeah, I think you're right, because she could easily, like for most of the episode, she definitely, to me, read as, here is the part of Starfleet that Beto doesn't like. Mm-hmm. She's militaristic, she's by the book, she just follows orders. But you see on her face all the hesitation and like almost the unwillingness to hit that fire button when she realizes what these torpedoes are and what they do. I mean, the balancing act is really impressive here. And I think this episode might be the most tonally consistent, and that's not to knock the other episodes, right? It's just that other episodes have multiple storylines going on, and it's, there's the funny parts and the dramatic parts. And this is like almost just straightforward, serious all the way through. Do you think that's mostly a function of the documentary format?
I think it's a function of the documentary format and Beto's perspective, what he was trying to do up front. I mean, how he was showing these characters, really trying to get into kind of the darker side of Star Trek, and he was trying to find the darker side in these characters. One of my favorite lines that I wrote for Spock was that he talked about using a Vantu blade to try and cut out his human half. That was something that Beto obviously would want to show. It's like, being in Starfleet and who you are, it's like, it has this kind of thing, this kind of, pain that you're going to be bringing to it. So it has this darkness, it has this edge, but that's because Beto wanted to portray that. But of course, as I said, by the end, he's showing that, they made a choice, to follow what this creature wanted, not what Starfleet or what the Utani wanted.
Mm-hmm. So when all is said and done, and little kids who have backed away from the TV screen while watching this grow up and remember back on this episode, what do you think they'll remember? What will this episode be known as?
I think hopefully it'll be the episode known that said that, space is someone once said space is dark and cold and full of death, but in fact it's full of light and hope.
That's a good answer.
Take that, Shat.
So good. So it's a short episode. Were there any deleted scenes you can think of?
Probably all these interview scenes. I mean, a lot of that. A lot of those interview scenes. We had a lot more kind of security footage scenes and a lot more footage of the drone in motion. But I think ultimately to make this as intense and as tight as possible, we sort of cut it down and really down to the bare bones, so that it would resonate with people. So I think that a lot of it, there's a lot that's I think is going to be in the extras feature. Hopefully, because Sharon and I said we could have done an entire episode of just the interviews because they're fascinating, and I hope that those will all be on like the special edition or whatever.
Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah.
Was there anything about the format that you found constraining, just as far as like, well, would a camera be there? Would we get audio in that situation, or between the security footage and the drones, did you feel you had it all?
Yeah, we really had to struggle. We thought about that with the security footage, like how if Beto's not on the bridge and there's an emergency, and how are we getting this footage? And would Starfleet authorize declassifying this footage? So we really kind of, sort of looked into those questions. Where we need security footage versus Beto's cameras. That was probably the most constraining thing that we struggled with. And Sharon struggled with it too, because she wanted really to get this documentary feel of like the cameras are not centered and the cameras are pushing past people, and so she wanted a little more of that raw kind of feel to it. But I think we had to sort of abandon that a little bit just in order to tell a much tighter story.
Yeah, there's a great juxtaposition of shots where half the frame is occluded by a console or something, but then you're dead center on Pike and Una while they're having their debriefing. It was like, it was very, very well done. I was kind of wondering, and I don't know if you know this, because I don't know if they would say it out loud. Did the actors love this because they're getting the whole camera, or did they hate it because there is nothing to hide behind?
They loved it. I mean, it seemed like they really got into it. It gave them a chance to really explore the character in a way that they found exciting. So I think they actually enjoyed it. What actor doesn't want a close-up?
Right. Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Well, this isn't about the actors. It's about the writers.
Exactly.
So, Alan, do you have a favorite line from this episode?
But I think you've heard it. We've talked about it multiple times. It is that line. It is that, it's Una's line. That would be my favorite line. Yeah.
It's a great line.
I really like that pick for your favorite too, because I think it's kind of thematically appropriate. Like, it's part of Star Trek pushing back on another part of Star Trek, which is kind of what the whole episode is itself. Like, masterfully done, sir.
It was fun.
All right. Well, we know that you were working on season 4. Do you have a one-word tease for us to tide us over for another year?
A one-word tease for 4.
Nothing spoilery, just...
No. Yes. Again, let's see. I'm working on it. I want to find the right word. Oh, coffee.
Oh.
Janeway stands, head's exploding right now. What?
See, we had Rat Kajino for season 2, didn't we?
Yep.
I think they specifically said Klingon coffee.
Klingon
So
coffee.
now we got just coffee. Interesting. All right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Man.
Love it.
You'll understand. The moment you'll be like,
And
oh
we
my.
love those moments. Yep.
They really are a gift.
Well, thank you so much, Alan. This has been truly enlightening, and we can't wait to have many more conversations with you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It was fun. I can talk about Star Trek all day long.
We'll make it.
We'll have you on to do that.
All right.